Betsy and Thomas here for the American Intelligence Media, and today we are delighted to decode Trump tweets. It doesn't take much to look between the lines on these, but they're so exciting.
Yes, Betsy, and these tweets, we can't ignore them because they're historic and they underscore what we've been saying for so long. So, I can certainly get my arm around to the back and pat myself on the back and yes, conclave, and thank you, and thank Betsy and her team.
And it's a good thing, if you've been following us for a while, you see that we were telling you that this is how it would all unfold. We told you this many months ago. And so that's why when we look forward, we know that this isn't the end. And then we look forward, we'll look into the British espionage that was actually going down at the same time that all this treason was happening. So let's get started. The first tweet kind of wraps into two that are related. Quote, what happened is that Donald Trump won. Down goes Comey, that was Fox and Friends, and then Trump tweets, drain the swamp and make America great again.
Well, what happened is that Donald Trump won. Yes, and they haven't gotten over that. The demon rats, the anarchist, demon rat, fascists, left, progressive, whatever you want to call them, I would call them the new party of National Socialism. They are truly as close to being like Hitler and his party as anyone ever has in history, except for perhaps Ukraine and the Party of Regions, which, of course, gave good old Joe Biden the highest award that they have to give. And then right after that, his son got multi-billion-dollar deals going on in Ukraine. Anyway, the point is that when you say the next sentence, down goes Comey, Comey ain't down yet, but this is what's going to happen to Comey. I was just telling Betsy. Bill Barr is looking at the entire Mueller investigation. He's going to find that it's not right. And because it's not right, he can actually abnegate many things that happened in it if he wishes. But one thing he can for sure abnegate is the immunity deal that Robert Mueller gave to Comey. As soon as that deal is completely thrown out because of the irregularities, and particularly because of the leaking that he did through Daniel Richman, his friend at New York Times, who was basically on the payroll of the FBI. In other words, institutionalized leaking, which is, of course, a felony. And in this case, it's treasonous because they were leaking executive privilege material. So what we're talking about is Comey is literally the treasonous person he's talking about here. So down goes Comey. They want to make reference to Comey being one of the treasonous people. We're going to mention all the treasonous people in a minute, or a bunch of them. But let's just be very clear. During the 2016 election, when you say Comey, you say Hillary. Comey was Hillary's agent, period. When you say the intelligence community, or when she kept saying the 17 members of the intelligence community, you are saying the Demon Rat Party. You are saying the Democratic National Committee. You are saying that the intelligence community had been weaponized for the Democrats. Okay? That is as treasonous and seditious as it can possibly get. You cannot mess with an election, especially a presidential election, because everything the president does is directly related to national security. If you attack the president, and it's fraudulent, as we're going to talk about here in a minute, that is an attack on national security, and it is completely illegal, and it is seditious. Because if you knew it was fraudulent and you're attacking a sitting president, then you just undermined we the people. So when you say mainstream media during the 2016 election, you were saying the Democratic campaign propaganda. And they should be charged because it was unpaid political announcements. They didn't say it was political announcements, but it was fraudulent. They knew it was fraudulent. They knew it was lies. And it was all, 98% Democrats, the demon rats. I don't like to say Democratic because the IC doesn't belong to them. They're not democratic. They're anything but democratic. They are demon rats. They are anarchists at this point. And so when you say mainstream media, you're saying basically yellow journalism. And the mainstream media knew they were lying, and they all knew they were lying, and they all knew that they were basically out there for Hillary. So when you say Comey, down goes Comey, then down goes Hillary. And when you're saying that the mainstream media is our enemy, as he says later on, they were attacking us. The mainstream media was attacking our elections. the other side, the Republicans, the campaign of Trump, they were attacking it completely throughout the whole thing, sending in spies, doing everything they could to frame them up. And who were they really attacking? The mainstream media, the intelligence community, Comey, and the entire group that had been weaponized, including the White House and Obama? They were attacking we the people.
And that's right, because we all went out and voted, and we cast our vote. And what these thugs were doing is that they were trying to undo what we had done as voters in America. And that's why this is treason. We called it out early that it is treason. We ask you, the audience, to start using the word treason more and more so that we could get that common. And that's what Trump is doing here too. He is warming you up. He's preparing you. What is he preparing us for, Thomas?
As far as I know, Betsy, we were the first ones ever to say treason. We were also the first ones to say that this was the worst case in U.S. history, and maybe, even broader than that, but for sure U.S. history. And people thought we were exaggerating at the time, and now you have the president and everyone else saying the same thing. When he says drain the swamp, what he means now is indict the traitors. That's the death sentence for some of these people.
And we all have to buck up out here, because treason is a big deal. Treason would have ruined our country. There's no place to go. Earth is the only planet we have. There is only one United States. And James Comey, Robert Mueller, Arvinder Sembai, the Privy Council, they all thought that they were better than we the people and tried to overthrow our president. So when we use the word treason, we have to also look at what the repercussions for that will be and get ourselves prepared for it.
That's right. And you pointed that out today, Betsy, with you and the team and the conclave, that we must understand that Trump is preparing us for the unredactions of the FISA warrants, which is going to say Brits are not our friends. They are our enemies. They can't be part of Five Eyes anymore, and that will link up with them using Huawei for 5G. But the point is this is treasonous. So when he says make America great again, remember he's on the campaign trail now. And every day as this stuff comes out, it's so beautiful. He just set them up with his immigration policy. If the demon rats don't pass it, then they are basically enemies of the state. And so let's make this perfectly clear. When you're talking about the campaign for 2020, you're talking about either going with the demon rats, the anarchist party, the party of the left, the party of Nazism, basically.
Baby killers.
Fascists, baby killers. These are murderers. Okay,
human traffickers.
I have not said this before, but I have to say this. When you can take a pill before, during, or after to stop a pregnancy, why would you ever go to full term? Why would you even need an abortion when you can take a pill, man or woman, or use 1,000 different devices to stop yourself from being pregnant? And even if you were raped, you could take the day after pill.
Well, look,
why would there be any murder of a child in utero?
We know where this is going.
I'm just asking the question.
I know.
Please,
I know. And
tell me if I'm wrong on this.
No, we also know that Planned Parenthood, the birth control pills don't work so that the women get pregnant, because what they're doing is they're harvesting human beings, and the babies have the most value. And it's a horrific thing for us to face as Western civilization, but we must face it. These people are literally eating our future, our human beings. But can we get back to the tweets now?
Yeah, they're vampires. They are indeed cannibals. Okay, so the 2020 election, here's who you can vote for. The Demon Rats, the party of sedition, treason, traitors, that supports unlawlessness, that supports open borders, that supports the biggest influx of drugs we've ever seen in human history, that supports the crime that comes in from illegal aliens, that supports human trafficking, that supports raping women, that supports trafficking children, that supports illegal aliens voting, that supports free medical for illegal aliens, though citizens of America do not have that. How in the world could anyone vote for the Democrat Party?
Well, they can't. It's all going to happen because of the rigged elections.
Or you could go with the best economy ever. You could go with Trump kicking the butt of any of our adversaries worldwide and getting their respect. We can go with the fact that he is exposing the DC criminality. That's what you could vote for in 2020, either the Demon Rats or MAGA.
Okay, new Fox poll, 58% of people say that the FBI broke the law in investigating Donald J. Trump. Hey, that's good news, because that means we're doing, all of us out here, you in the audience, we hear that we're educating and enlightening our fellow citizens of what's really going on. The FBI is crooked. It's broken. It needs to be dissolved. I mean, these folks cannot think about Mandalay. We still don't know what happened at Mandalay. Now, we know here that it's probably because the FBI actually ran the false flag. But there are a number of events that the FBI is left in charge, and they have not found and reported to the American people, other than their little patsies that they shoot at the end, of who is creating this havoc. I mean, the FBI, think about it. They have a main headquarters out there in Washington, and that's where Comey and all these, Christopher Wray and all these crooks do all their planning and scheming against the American people. But yet it's happening under their own roof, and the rank and file can't find it. I'm telling you, they're rotten to the core. We need to get rid of it, and we need to put this function back where it belongs at each of the state levels. We do not need this kind of centralized police state.
Very good remarks. I totally agree with all of that.
Well, I had to get that off my chest.
Now, just saying, also remember that the FBI has a counterintelligence department, and that's who Strzok worked through, and that's where all this illegality comes from. Why would you have the Federal Bureau of Investigation, which is supposed to work within our domestic borders, have a component that is the counterintelligence? Who are they fighting?
Us, the people.
Oh, well, there you go.
The FBI must be dissolved. And the other one is CIA. When you have Gina Haspel, who's the director there now, who was previously in London working with MI6 to set up the overthrow of Trump, this is just total outrageous corruption that we must eliminate.
Gina Haspel had to have been controlled by Arvinder Sambhai. No other way that you can read this. When you look at the facts of what happened in the way George Papadopoulos, Joseph Mifsud, Alexander Downer, Andrew Wood, the way they were all manipulated, Stephen Halper, Jeffrey Patty, Lord Malik Brown, all of them, they all worked through one coordinated person. And it wasn't Gina Haspel who was the head of the London CIA. No. She was told what to do too, because we know that George Papadopoulos was told what to do by Arvinder Sambhai. And who did she send him to? Michael Gaeta, the FBI counterintelligence expert in Rome at the U.S. Embassy. Shouldn't even be there. Why is there FBI counterintelligence outside of America?
Well, that's how they get around with it. They have
it's criminal.
A separate department, counterintelligence, that allows them to go beyond U.S. soil.
Now, just to say this, I'm sorry I have to say this. Fox News gives you less than 20% of the story. As a matter of fact, I would say that the people watching Fox News know about 1% of the truth of what happened with this coup d'etat, because it is not going to be found on Fox News. And if Fox News would actually tell the whole story, their listeners would completely freak out. They are not prepared for the truth. Fox News is preparing you for the truth, but it is not the whole truth and nothing but the truth. And I don't want to criticize them, because at least they do something. But to say
show up and talk? I mean, that's all they do. I mean, it's sort of like I was listening to Rush Limbaugh today, traveling between errands, and he's talking about the Assistant Secretary of State lady who was over there in China. She's talking to a large audience of people. Can't recall her name. You probably can. And saying, hey, just chill. Things will change. We're going to get rid of Trump, and then y'all can come in and it'll be business as usual. And Rush is talking about, oh, well, that's what bureaucrats do in Washington. And I mean, where is his intellectual curiosity to ask and lead his listeners to why this is going on, what the senior executive service is, why these operatives are still in place working against Trump and the American people, what the plum book is, how we get rid of them, what the Gladio operations and the stay behind armies are. I mean, Rush is nothing but entertainment. He is there to keep your political mind engaged in some kind of 3-hour entertainment while you do nothing.
Absolutely, Betsy. Absolutely.
But that's what's going on at Fox.
Absolutely. And if we could have one single show, give us 1 hour to tell the way the story really happened, Fox News viewership would go up a huge amount.
That's
Why? Because if 58% of the people say, through a Fox News poll, that the FBI broke the law, then that means that Fox News is doing a very bad job with the other 42%. They need to tell the truth, the whole truth. Remember, they are part of the story. Had they told the truth while it was happening, this might not have even happened. But they're supposed to be the watchdog, helping we the people keep track of government.
Fox News is a watchdog?
Well, that's what mainstream media is supposed to be.
Oh,
it's the fourth estate. It's supposed to be protecting we the people, the third estate.
Because I'll tell you something, if Rush were truly what he claims he is to people, we would have heard about this story years ago, but he has kept us isolated in a limited hangout, and we don't look at the problems. Now, here's the tweet about treason. You ready for it?
The biggest tweet in history. I am ready for it.
It is. My campaign for president was conclusively spied on. Nothing like this has ever happened in American politics, a really bad situation. Treason means long jail sentences. Read between the lines. Mm-hmm. And this was treason.
Long jail sentences, or if they happen to be military or they sign military security agreements, it could mean hanging, it could mean firing squad, it could mean death, it could mean life in prison. So we have to remember, we got to take intelligence away from the corporate world where no one gets punished for anything. That's why Hillary's not being punished for what she did. Put it back in the hands of the military where we can punish the people who are treasonous traitors and seditiously working against America. Now, this particular tweet will go down in history. And now, you told me earlier, some of your team said that this is all over the place and that they're all freaking because this tweet basically says it all. But what it doesn't say, as you said between the lines, people are going to die. People are going to jail. Okay, it says conclusively. When has Trump been wrong? He said wiretap, hard wiretap. They did hard wiretap. Tell me when he's been wrong. Anyone in any of the comments below, tell me when Trump has been wrong on any tweet or any. They call him a liar all the time.
Well,
no, he has not lied at all. He's a cheerleader and he's encouraging, but read his words for exactly what they are. Conclusively spied on. That does not mean that he's going with what Barr said. Be very clear about this. This is not based upon William Barr. No. This is based upon what he just got through reading. And when he unredacts the FISA court applications, which never went to a hearing, it's going to show that it's going to show the United Kingdom, it's going to show the monarchy of the Brits, let's call it that. The monarchy of the Brits and the United Kingdom is our number one enemy right after China, but they work with China. When you say Britain, you say China. When you say China, you say Britain. And I've conclusively proved that with the Broadcom deal, with the crypto keys going to the Shanghai, and with Hillary Clinton, and with Entrust, and then turning around and Broadcom coming back out of... No. It's when Hillary is China, okay? And Hillary was in bed not only with Putin and all the communists, any communist. She was in... It was the Clintons who gave North Korea the billions of dollars that it took to create enriched uranium so that they could build bombs, okay? Don't forget, the number one supporter of communism in the world is our Bill and Hillary Clinton, and always have been, okay? Period. So when he says conclusively, he's talking about what he personally looked at. Now, then he says, nothing like this has ever happened in American politics. Okay, we said that first, and we said it a year and a half ago. And we said that if this would come to light, that it would go down in the history books, making Benedict Arnold look like a Boy Scout, a very loyal Boy Scout. Because why? You're talking about 36 people that we can name, and that doesn't count the 25 Russians that we've named. So add those two together, and those are the people that we know have to go to jail, and many of them for treason. Open and closed cases.
And that's just the start of it. And here's the other thing, too, is what we're going to start now seeing is a major shift in geopolitical alignments around the world. Because when you see that it was the Brits who spied on us, and then the next big word that we have to all start using on here is espionage. Because that's what happened. It was treason on our side, espionage over there. And this is huge, and it's going to shift who's aligned with who in the world.
They subverted our election. They spied on and stole President-elect's entire stuff. That's what Andrew Weissman did. He went in and he stole it when no one was there. and took it out and has not even given it back, which is a massively illegal felony and should have made the entire special counsel go down the toilet because of just that act alone. They did the same to Manafort, did the same to Gates, did the same to Cohen. That's Andrew Weissman. Usually, almost every case Andrew Weissman is involved in where he muscles it gets appealed and overthrown. Now, will this special counsel be overthrown? No. Will it be abrogated? No. But will any deals that were made in it be looked at and perhaps completely changed? Yes. Now, this tweet right here, thank heavens, we get a chance to read between the lines of the tea drops and the genius Donald J. Trump, because what he's saying here is absolutely perfectly clear to me. Obama goes to jail. Hillary goes to jail. Period. You got to start at the top because that's where it happened. Because when he says treason and you say Comey, you say Hillary. But you also got to add John Podesta in there. And then you have to add all the people who were part of the dossier.
You know what?
Because they knew what they were doing.
You know what? They say that that Court TV has been kind of re-upped again or something. People say they've noticed some stuff. I think we need to have a channel called Treason TV because this could take years to take care and clean the swamp. But I agree. We need to go for the top people first. And
we need to go for treason, the highest crime first.
Yes.
Not low-hanging fruit like Robert Mueller did for 2.5 years just to kind of
appease the people.
Yeah, and create a smokescreen and a hall of mirrors so that he could
get everybody. We need to get Jeff Sessions in there. We need to get Loretta Lynch. I mean, maybe that's why Kamala Harris was so strong on getting that anti-lynching bill passed because there is going to be quite a lot of rope needed for what we see.
Well, when you're going to name these treasonous people, you got to name, Comey, James Baker, Andrew McCabe, Ribicki, his assistant, Strzok and Page,
Sally Yates, Victoria Nuland, Samantha Powers. Let's not forget the women that were involved there equally.
The beautiful Nellie Orr.
Yes.
Bruce Orr, Allison Saunders, Arvinda Sambai, Zainab Ahmad, Andrew Weissman. These are criminals. These aren't just because they were with Mueller. These are the criminals who committed a lot of crimes before they even joined the Mueller investigation.
And then we got to look at economic sanctions against these Brits, Richard Dearlove, Jeffrey Patty, all of these people for their involvement in the overthrow of our president and our country.
Everyone involved in the unmasking. Everyone who was part of Comey's bunk buddies, which was a couple dozen people. He names a couple dozen people that he shared executive privilege material with all the time. Everyone who leaked, I can't list them all, but there's 36 of them who we have clearly shown the crimes they committed and why they were treasonous, why they committed sedition, why they are traitors, and why they are war actors. And we must acknowledge them as war actors because every single attack on Donald Trump once he became president was an attack on our national security. Now, we have to remember Susan Rice and her little message to herself, which shows that Biden, Comey, Obama, which means Valerie Jarrett, it means his entire
Clapper,
White House.
Brennan, let's not forget them.
All of them. Had to have been involved. And because we know that they were, because of their alibis and their lies that they tell on CNN once they became, of course,
commentators.
Commentators for these lying networks. We know that they lied so many times on those networks, and we know that they lied under testimony, and we know that they perjured themselves so many times. For that reason alone, you have to arrest dozens and dozens of people. But when it comes down to it, this is going to be Valerie Jarrett, who really is the Chicago mob boss who took over Washington, D.C. through her little patsy, Barack Obama, and his wife, Big Mike. And every single person in the White House, we know because Susan Rice was there and because of the Strzok Page messages saying we must keep the White House informed. He wants to know every step of the way. That was when it was still Crossfire Hurricane. That was when it was transformed into the Committee for Impeachment. That's when it was transformed into the Committee Against Trump. There were 13 names before it became Robert Mueller's special counsel. We told you this all along. We told you about Felix Sater, all these setups, all this stuff that was going on. The treason is thicker than thieves. All they have to do is take what was just sent from Leader Technologies, which is basically the crime line, but much more than the crime line. All the Aim for Truth intelligence reports that show.
We call it the Citizen Treason Report.
And if you take that, you can prosecute those 50-some
Yeah.
people I just mentioned.
Easily, because we give you indictable evidence. Now let's move on to the next tweet, which is related. Will Jerry Nadler ever look into the fact that Crooked Hillary deleted and acid-washed 33,000 emails after getting a most powerful demand notice for them from Congress?
Well, you got to remember they're still hiding those 33,000 emails. They're in Christopher Wray's office. He already testified to that. Comey had them. And we know through Judicial Watch that there are numerous confidential, secret, top secret materials on there, which shows that it was intent to destroy the proof that she had committed security violations, massive security violations, okay? Now, why did they cover for Clinton? Very simple. During the midterm exam, which is what they called the examination of these, let's call it the Hillary email scam. But it was called The Matter, right? Remember, Loretta Lynch committed a crime.
Gee, there's that Lynch word again.
Yeah, Lynch.
Lynching.
She committed a crime, and that's the reason she got out first. She jumped ship, one of the first ones, because of her involvement with the New York Police Department and all these crimes that she actually committed on the tarmac with the New York police, threatening to put one of them in jail, knowing that he had done nothing, to try to get the New York police to give up Anthony Weiner's laptop without taking any of the content as evidence. The content are the 33,000 missing emails. There's 780,000 emails on that, okay? And who had it? The woman, Huma Abedin, whose mother is the head of not the Muslim Brotherhood, there's a Muslim Sisterhood. She's in charge of their newspaper and she basically runs the show.
And Huma Abedin got a security clearance, of course, to work with the Secretary of State, even having a family with a history and an activity in the Muslim Brotherhood. That's how lax the security is.
Now, here's what happened. Comey gave complete immunity to Hillary and all of her people. Hillary was not even investigated. She was never named in the midterm exam investigation. She was never named as a person of interest. There was no interrogation of her, and there was no recording of it, and there were no 302 notes because she was never, ever investigated. Now, we all know that she lied right in front of all the American people in testimony, saying many lies about this. But the deal is that anyone who communicated with her, which includes the entire White House, the Secretary, the Department of State, anyone who communicated with her knew they were not on a secure line and it was a felony. And beyond a felony, it is breaking their security agreement. Now, depending upon whether they're SES and they had a very truncated security agreement with no background investigation, that might be okay. But because they didn't know, but everybody else knew. I knew the second that any of this came out because I have signed those agreements and I know the punishments that come with them, and that's what they're going to have to face now. So there was no investigation. We know also that George Papadopoulos was framed and set up by Stephen Halper, by Joseph Mifsud, by Alexander Downer, by many others. And they said, would you like the Russian copy of the 33,000 emails that they got from Hillary's server? They kept offering it to him, and he goes, no, I don't want that. Why would I want that? No, I don't want that. I want a meeting with Putin. But even that was stupid because he didn't have any connection to Russia. He was connected to Israel and the Mediterranean basin oil and natural gas. He was attempting through the Hudson Institute, just like Carter Page, attempting. These guys were on the first step. And then everyone says that they were the bigwigs. No, they don't know jack.
Okay, well, our audience knows that, and we like to go beyond that.
So the 33,000 emails they tried to set up George Papadopoulos with, the FBI still has. Mm-hmm. And they've admitted it in testimony. So There is no such thing. And so the frame-ups, those were directly done by our FBI and our intelligence agencies.
Well, then it looks to me like we're going to have to
cooperation with Britain.
On our new Treason TV channel, we'll be looking at this rank and file in the FBI who allowed this stuff to go on and kept hiding it. Let's go on to Iran. There's 2 tweets on Iran. The fake news media is hurting our country with its fraudulent and highly inaccurate coverage of Iran. It is scattershot, poorly sourced, made up, and dangerous. At least Iran doesn't know what to think, which at this point may be a very good thing. And then he reiterates that a couple hours later. With all of the fake and made up news out there, Iran can have no idea what is actually going on. That's true, because even people out here don't know.
What he's talking about here is yellow journalism. Our mainstream media has clearly stated that they want to get us into a war so they can defame Donald Trump. Anything.
Yes.
Anything to harm him. It doesn't matter how many people have to die. So, these attacks on Saudi ships in their port, no one quite knows who did that. It's quite easy to know who did that. I'll tell you in a second. The pipelines that are being attacked by drones, the Yemenis are using drones now to attack Saudi Arabian pipelines. Oh, isn't that interesting? So right there in their own ports, they are having attacks on ships that carry oil. Okay, and then we of course have the warnings from Iran. But they've warned us before, the Straits of Hormuz. If anybody goes through them, they're going to blow them up. How many times have we been threatened with that by radical Islamic fascist Muslims who I say are our enemies? Those are war actors, and I don't know why we just don't go after them. I do not know why. If you want a regime change, how about changing the regime of somebody who says they want to kill all Americans in their country, outside of their country, and that their religion, their theocracy, which has become their state government, against the will of the Iranian people and the Persians who lived there before the Muslims overtook their country, and before we, through the CIA, helped set up the Peacock Throne and destroy it, and again, CIA influence. Why? Because of nuclear concerns and because of the oil. Because Britain and France, our good buddies, not us, were stealing the oil, basically stealing. Like we were stealing the oil through Standard Oil through Saudi Arabia. The Brits and the French were doing it in Iran. Now, what's really happening in Iran, the reason he says they're confused is because they're going, hey, what? We don't know anything about this. Who paid for those drones and who paid? They haven't demonstrated this, but there are little drones you can put in the water like little tiny ships, and that's what attacked the Saudi Arabian ships, and that's the reason they can't figure it out. They're nothing more than, this is well known, than aquatic drones. And so who did that? Barry Soetoro. Barack Obama, for no reason whatsoever, gave $150 billion to Iran, and that was on top of the $1.5 billion paying them back for the $400,000, which we didn't owe them, plus interest. And that was used to buy 1,000 missiles that have been shot at Israel since Barack Obama gave that money through John Kerry. And that's the reason John Kerry is over there trying to save the... he knows that the Iranians will spill the beans and just say whatever, as they already have. Zarif has already said that he paid off John Kerry and many other Americans during the Iran nuclear deal with America, and one of those was Barack Obama, $150 billion for no reason whatsoever, to feed to the largest terrorist organization in the world that has now been declared that. The Iranian Revolutionary Guard is declared a terrorist group, as it should have always been. And we aided them through Barack Obama, Barry Soetoro. It's disgusting for me to even think about that person and the scam that he pulled on Americans and the 2 million people he bombed, which caused 58 million people to become refugees, that has caused the invasion of Europe and the invasion of America.
He has to be the first to go down for treason.
Yes. Now, when we say dangerous, when he says dangerous, he is saying that this is an attack on the national security, and whoever is doing this is in fact, because he called them fraudulent, so they have the intent, they know they're lying, and they are attacking who? The national security of America. In other words, he just called the fake news media war actors supporting Iran and creating yellow journalism to start a war for the sake of political Democrat political purposes. Period. There's no other way you can see this, because what is happening in Iran is not being reported by the mainstream media. The reason that Trump declared the Iranian Revolutionary Guard terrorists is to aid the people who are standing up against these Islamic fascist Muslims in Iran, and throughout the whole country, they're in practical civil war. They are certainly in economic war. And Iran has basically taken social media, as Turkey has done, as China has done, as North Korea has done, and basically turned it off because it was being used as a weapon against Iran. And it was some people who had left Iran were using social media to start these riots. But it's not just riots, it's economic disaster in Iran. And that's the reason that Merkel, in absolute defiance of the sanctions upon Iran, gave $400 million openly around the corner. She gave it to somebody else to give to them to defy the sanctions so that Iran would not go the next step. Well, the second Iran has the ability to fire missiles that have nuclear warheads on them, and they have never once for 1 second stopped their nuclear enrichment program, never once, and they've admitted that recently. When Trump pulled out of the deal, on the second date, when the second part went into effect, they stated, and they showed pictures, and Israel had already shown the pictures, that Iran never stopped, ever, for 1 second, enriching uranium to make uranium-238. Why? Because they have one of the richest countries, they have the richest source of uranium, like they're the fifth or sixth richest source of uranium in the world. They're not going to stop enriching it, and they're not going to stop until these are the same people who sent 1,000 missiles, launched 1,000 missiles at Israel. Okay? Now, I'm not going to debate whether Israel deserves to be there and the issue between Palestinians and Israelis, but I will state this. If Iran, as you saw, Israel blows up every single place that launched those missiles, whether there's any missiles there left or not. They've blown up the Hezbollah and the Hamas and the Iranian Revolutionary Guard supply chains coming all the way through Iraq, from Iran all the way through Syria and Lebanon, right into Palestine. They've blown them up so many times we can't count. And what has Trump said recently? Keep blowing them up. So if there's an issue with Iran, we don't need to do anything. Israel's going to blow them up before we do. And if they attack any of our ships that we just sent there, that is not an excuse for war, folks. And the lies of the mainstream media, and the proof of what I'm saying is, the mainstream media came out and lied and said Trump has thinking about or almost approved 120,000 foot soldiers going into Iran. Well, there's no war there yet. And these are the same Yemenis using the same bombs that the Iranians have been giving them for the last 2 years. So why is the issue now? The issue now is because it's Qatar. And mind you, we just allowed, why did Trump just say to Qatar, we're going to approve your air travel agreement? Because that's a presidential agreement. Why did he just say that? Because he knows Qatar is working with Iran, because Qatar and Iran share the north and south oil fields, the richest, first or second richest natural gas fields in the world are shared by Qatar and Iran. And so when you say, who is attacking Saudi Arabia? Sorry, it's not only Barack Obama through Iran, it's Qatar. And Trump knows that.
Okay, and our last tweet for this session, it now seems that General Flynn was under investigation long before it was common knowledge. It would have been impossible for me to know this, but if that was the case, and with me being one of two people who would become president, why was I not told so that I could make a change?
Now, he was told about Flynn. 4 days later, he let Flynn go. The whole thing about Flynn was made up. And remember, it was McGahn, who was manipulated by Sally Yates, Strzok, and McCabe, and Comey. And they said, they had a fight. And Sally Yates said, oh no, Flynn is guilty. And Comey said, no, he's not. Now, why did Sally Yates say that? And I'll explain this. It's very complicated. Flynn was the DIA. He was on the National Security Council for Obama. He was the head of the DIA, the Defense Intelligence Agency. And as such, he was directly in contact with Erdogan in terms of what we're going to do in Syria. He did not agree, that is, Flynn did not agree with Obama, because Obama just wanted to carry out World War III as soon as Hillary was elected. And so he had to keep the war going. So when the war was backing off, and when everyone was noticing that we didn't bomb ISIS ever, Obama never once bombed ISIS. Okay, is that a shock to you? He never once bombed the pipelines ISIS was using to get their money. Why? Because he was paying ISIS in Syria $1 billion a year, and that's a fact. And everyone knows that. You can Google that and get that one. Trump came in and he said, what? What? He had people quit over this because he said, we're not going to pay ISIS $1 billion to fight in Syria against the president of Syria. And that then means also against the Kurds, which also means against the Turks, which also means against the British and the French and the Americans. Okay, so he said, I ain't giving $1 billion to ISIS a year. And guess what, folks? ISIS collapsed immediately, didn't it? Except for the few cities where they were hiding out with weapons that were American weapons. And then now they've been flushed out, and ISIS has been ended in Syria, and they have spread because they allow them, when this happens, to go to Afghanistan, to go to Iraq, and go to Yemen, and go to Somalia, and go to other places in Africa. Yes, so Flynn did not file because he's a fool. He did not file after he got fired by Obama and continued to work with Erdogan. Okay, that's just stupid. FARA demands that when you are an agent of a foreign government, even if you're lobbying for them, even if that lobbying is only speaking to your friends in Washington, D.C., you must file. That's what John Podesta and Tony did not do with Ukraine and Russia. That's what Manafort and Gates did not do with Ukraine. And Flynn did not do it with Turkey and with Russia because he was a person who would go on Sputnik and RT particularly, and he went to Russia and they paid him. So he's being paid by Russians. Now, mind you, Russia Today, RT, and Sputnik never had to file FARA. They never had to file as foreign agents until after Robert Mueller, so that then Robert Mueller could then use that against Michael Flynn, saying that he was working with foreign agents because they filed as foreign agents. Lie. Tony Podesta, John Podesta were allowed to file as foreign agents for Ukraine after the fact, after they testified before Robert Mueller's special counsel grand jury, and they got immunity for everything. And they did the exact same crimes as Manafort. They worked for the same three oligarchs in Ukraine, and the money that Manafort got, the only difference is that Manafort also worked for Viktor Yanukovych as a genius and got him elected twice. But for the three oligarchs of the Party of Region, who are Nazis, this is where Antifa comes from, the same flag, same color, same theme. And those Nazis, the Party of Regions in Ukraine, gave the highest award there is to Joe Biden, and then let his son sit on a natural gas board as a paid position worth about $1 billion. Same thing happened in China when he went there. Joe Biden went to China, and then his son Hunter went and got a multi-billion-dollar deal. And the Ukrainians, of course, Joe Biden, you've seen it in the news, Joe Biden tried to get the lawyer fired who was going after the company that Hunter worked for, and now he denies all of that. No, it didn't happen. He never talked to his son when his son was there. He never had anything to do with that. That's such a lie. Anyway, he won't get elected because he's just a weirdo. But when we're talking about the fact that they were after Flynn, the moment they told Trump that Flynn was under investigation, I think 4 days later, he was fired. Same thing with Manafort, same thing with Gates, same thing with Stone. They kept coming to Trump and saying at first, Stone is being investigated. Trump dropped him. Manafort's being investigated. Trump dropped him. Finally, they said Gates is being investigated. He dropped him. They said Flynn was being investigated. He dropped them. Carter Page was sent in as an FBI asset, and Trump dropped him because he was a nutcase and he knew that he was a wackadoodle, and they hated working with him, and he got a personal protection order put on Carter Page. And we're told that Carter Page was working for Trump to get and making billions of dollars, going to make billions of dollars off of the oil deals that Carter Page was doing for Trump with Putin. Lies, lies, lies. Felix Sater, the FBI asset, okay? Sent in by Trump again and again and again, and in the end even attacked his own friend Michael Cohen. That was an FBI asset.
Wait. What do you mean Trump sent in Felix Sater?
Comey,
okay.
Comey sent in Felix Sater as an FBI asset.
Yes.
Longtime FBI asset, and tried to set up Michael Cohen. And so the whole Trump Tower deal, Michael Cohen didn't even know that his best friend from childhood, Felix Sater, was setting him up. And I'm telling you, the reason that his arm was in a sling was not because he had his shoulder worked on. It was because he was roughed up by Felix Sater, because Felix Sater is part of the Russian mob in New York, and Michael Cohen worked with the Russian mob. No one's more crooked. No one No lawyer in New York City is more crooked than Michael Cohen. He should have gone to jail for life. Felix Sater should have gone to jail for life. Carter Page should have gone to jail for life for treason. Flynn, because he didn't file, should have been allowed to file. Stone didn't do anything wrong. Gates, he didn't do anything wrong. Let him file. There's nothing. There were no crimes. Now, we know that Manafort pulled some money out of his Syrian offshore account, but so did the Podestas. Hello? To use it to buy his daughter a house in New York City. Well, we told him when he did that was going to sink his boat. So when we're talking about who should have been filing, then you have to remember that those are all lies, and that anybody that was compromised in the Trump campaign, that the intelligence committee, to Trump and told him that, he immediately got rid of. So these accusations are completely ridiculous. And if you don't know that Erdogan is the enemy of everyone except Erdogan in Turkey, then you're making a mistake. So what good does it do to punish Flynn? What needs to happen is Barr needs to go back and say he's going to drop all of those. Not that Trump will give a pardon. No, he needs to basically make whole the people who were bankrupted by this false Robert Mueller special counsel investigation. Now, only if he abnegates it is there going to be federal funds to do that. I don't know that he'll do that. But when it comes down to it, I hope that our audience is well aware that Donald Trump has done nothing wrong. No person in political history has ever been vetted more than him. There were a minimum of 8 serious, major, multi-million-dollar investigations that found him completely innocent. And so if you read anything that says different, then from now on, you need to understand that it's coming out rapidly. All the lies, all the aliases, all the alibis, and all the Sergei Millian's coming out saying he didn't do anything. And all these people are coming out saying, they're alibis. Okay? They're singing their song to practice before they get before the judge. So what's going to happen is this is going to take a long time. Trump is not going to let this go away quickly. And he needs to attack, and he will, the top brass from the White House down, because it is impossible, 150% impossible, for this attempted coup d'etat and election meddling to happen without the 100% express approval, if not order, directly from Barack Obama. And so this is the biggest treasonous act that ever happened in U.S. history.